Ground media, we're taking back the sound, lifting up the truth until the walls come down. Voices for the kingdom, hope in every town. This is where the lost get found. On reclaim ground.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Reclaim Ground Media. You'll notice my background's a little bit different this week, and it's because it's so cold out and Delmarva energy is so expensive. I can't afford to heat the room I usually record in. So we've moved inside to bring you guys this episode for tonight that has been pretty anticipated. And tonight we are covering all about the Delmarva energy bills.
Yes, thank you, Katie. I believe that we are live on the Reclaim Ground Facebook page tonight as well for the first time, in addition to our Facebook pages. So we have enough fans on the Reclaim Ground Media Facebook page. Yes, let's celebrate that, to be able to bring it.
That's pretty big. We're at, I think, 1.7 thousand, and we've gotten that in about 2 months. So thank you so much to everybody that has been a supporter and has been encouraging us along the way. It's really paying off, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, I've heard people, usually they talk to me about Mr. 302, but they've come up to me and said, we love what you guys are doing, Katie and you on Reclaim Ground. We love the topics that you're talking about, things that other people won't even touch. And you're bringing people on live to talk about their real life experiences. And that's what we're all about. We want people that feel like they're unheard, that their stories have not been told, to talk about their experience and to get on here and talk to us and to share what's really going on in Delaware. And tonight is going to be a great show. We're going to talk about the increasing energy rates. Unfortunately, it's coming at a time when we are talking about my wife just called it Snowageddon, that could be coming on Sunday. I think the prediction is 1 inch to 80 inches, depending on where you are in Delaware.
What's it down there? What's it down in the where you're at in Milford?
I think realistically, we're looking at almost at up to a foot of snow.
Okay.
And my kids are already, they're talking about what their plans are. I'm the adult, so I'm looking at exactly what we're looking at on the page. I'm looking at my electric bill, looking at my natural gas bill. I'm going, I might be outside with you guys, stacking up the firewood, because that might be.
It's going down to 8 degrees on Saturday. It's going down to 8 degrees. And those bills that we just showed up there, I made sure that in the samples that I picked, it was everybody that was saying they have about 1,100 square foot, 1,500 square foot house, just so we can compare that. And most of these people are saying that they're keeping their temperatures at between 65 and 68 degrees. And that is still what their bills looked like. Yeah. That $800 one, that stopped me in my tracks. That is absolutely insane.
Wow.
We have reached out. Actually, if we can bring Greg on real quick. Greg, our producer, was kind enough to reach out to a rep at Delmarva. We really wanted to try to get a rep on here tonight to answer some questions, and so we could ask them some questions as well and, kind of get some transparency on all this, but unfortunately they were not able to do so.
No, they weren't able to do so, but they did send me some information they wanted to share with your viewers tonight.
Yes.
And so I put together a very quick slideshow. I'll try to get through this in about 3-4 minutes of some things to kick off their conversation. I want to thank Matt Ford from Delmarva Power. Due to the impending storm, they were not able to be here tonight because they're getting ready for a long weekend, figuring out lines to make sure we have power throughout. So, as much as we may hate the bills, please understand there are hard workers that are doing incredible work to make sure that you have power. When there's accidents, when things happen, they risk their lives really in bad weather to make good things happen for us. So I want to make sure we recognize the good that Delmarva does. They wanted me to explain, if I could, and I apologize for not having the view mode on here, but we'll take up my entire screen, that the electric supply rate is the rate of the cost the electricity of the customer uses, and that rate will change based on the purchase cost of electricity. They also said the price is a result of the SOS, which is the standard offer service, that is an auction in Delaware and Maryland that sets the annual PJM base residual auction, which is called the BRA. And now the BJM provides electricity here to Delaware as well as many other states because they're operating 13 states that include Delaware and Maryland. And they're responsible for making sure that we have electricity because we actually in Delaware only produce about 17% of our own electricity.
16% when I was researching for this.
It's just under 17. Yeah, you're correct. The average electricity cost over multi-year periods from that standard offer services, Delaware rates are reflecting 24-25 averages, Maryland 23-25, to try to protect customers from sudden spikes. I see this in their data. This is why I want to interview them, because I feel like we're not reflective of 24-25. I feel like I'm paying more because I'm a solar customer, and I'm paying two bills now. I'm paying for my solar panels, and I'm paying this, what I feel is advanced. They did say that if they get a pass-through cost, the company does not profit from it. They wanted to make sure that I shared that. Delmarva Power delivers energy but does not generate it or set the price of the electricity in any way, shape, or form. The price averaging is important to protect customers from large changes in wholesale electric costs that occur each year, they said. And instead, Delmarva Power customers see an average energy cost over time to help to kind of slide you into the pain and the hurt of those bills. Again, this is when they're not answering questions. I'm interjecting some language here, maybe a little biased. They did talk about the electric distribution rates. Distribution rates allow the company to continue investing in reliability upgrades and programs to better serve customers. This rate includes the cost of delivering electricity to customer residences. The rate also addresses severe storm damage and helps them invest in making the grid more resilient against future storms as well as manage inflation while ensuring reliable energy for customers. The gas rates overview, very similar. They have the supply and delivery charges. Sometimes it's referred to as the gas cost rate. It's the cost for natural gas Delmarva purchases for their customers, they said, to meet their needs. And that gas supply cost is based on many supply and demand factors, and it's adjusted annually to reflect whatever the forecasted wholesale price will be, and that gets overseen by the Delaware Public Service Commission. So they want to make sure that people know that Delmarva is not setting that rate. Delmarva, the Delaware Public Service Commission, is the one that is passing that over. So it is a pass-through cost, once again, which means the company is not profiting from it. They also want to make sure that you knew they don't produce that gas and set the price in any way. To reduce the impact supply of cost increases, Delmarva purchases and stores about half of the natural gas needed to meet winter demand in summer when prices are lower, to try to shield cost for everybody. And the gas distribution rate reflects the necessary investments Delmarva Power makes to help ensure reliable gas delivery services for its customers, allows the company to continue investing in reliability, as well as include the cast iron replacement projects, which I have to look up. I don't know what that is.
I haven't heard of that yet.
Yeah, and pipeline integrity management to help safely deliver reliable natural gas to the customers that it needs. They want to give all of us some cost-saving tips. And I got to tell you guys, I have my house. I know. I have my house at the 67, the lowest it's ever been. My wife is from Puerto Rico, ladies and gentlemen. My wife wants a house at like 74, but Delmarva has broken her. She's at 67 here in the house. And I can tell you our bill is still obscene.
Hi.
So yeah, they're saying lower the thermostat, the 68, the 70 in the winter, service your HVAC systems regularly, see the drafts and improve insulation, use sunlight for natural heating. Gas systems still use electricity, so you will see that your electric bill is still on even though you're using gas. They want to make sure people know that. Heat pump, set to the lowest comfortable temperature and leave it alone. Don't fluctuate temperature changes or else it has to work harder in order to catch up. That's something that they put in here. So heat pumps should also show auxiliary when it has to run, and make sure that that heat pump is clearly showing that when it's below 32 degrees outside, like it has been. They also finally ended, they have a couple more notes here, but we'll get there. They have assistance programs. This is income-based grants with no repayment required. They work with a bunch of different partners for that, and they have income-based eligibility guidelines for each of those. And there are other nonprofit organizations throughout the region of Delaware that make this happen. They're working with state, federal, nonprofit partners like the LHEAP program, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. They have grants that can go up to $2,500, $2,506 exactly in Delaware, with no payback required based on your income, the type of fuel, and the type of dwelling that you're in. It's open to homeowners, renters, roomers, and subsidized housing tenants. And Delaware customers can review eligibility requirements by contacting LHEAP Energy by visiting the Department of Health and Services website. So you can find information. I do have phone numbers for that. We can get out for everybody for that. They also talked about Delaware 211 for local resources, the Good Neighbor Energy Fund with matching donations, the extensions available for eligible low-income customers, and then they have winter weather and billing support as well, where they can arrange payments of up to 12 months for eligible residents with past due balances. So you can keep your heat on when you know about these type of programs. They want to make sure that we talked about that tonight. There's plenty more information here. I think there were like a few other things. There's customer relief funds, $500 in assistance for eligible customers. I don't know what that details. That would be a great thing to ask them when they're able to do the interview in the future, which they have agreed to.
Yes.
As well as support tools. They wanted me to put this up here. If you do need assistance and you're watching tonight's show, you can go to customer care 1-800-375-7117 in order to get answers to some of these questions on assistance. They have a website, delmarva.com/assistance finder as well. So that's kind of the news fit the print. And they gave me a video, which we can play later if we need to help you understand your bill. And so back to you and Brian, Katie.
I got to poke some holes in this real quick, Greg. Okay. Cause
Go right
I have
ahead.
a heat pump. My house is about 1,100 square feet. We have the thermostat set to 66. It doesn't change. We're not allowed to change it. In fact, my husband has it on his phone and he's the only one that can change it. Not only that, but in June,
I need that control.
we had a group. We went through the Energize Delaware program, but when you go through that program, there's other smaller companies that come out and they come to your house, and the ones that we had came out to see if we're losing energy in places. And we were losing energy in places. They were able to fix that up for us, but I got to tell you, my bill's still going up, even with all of these fixes. Yeah. It's still going up. Yeah, and they were here working for a very long time, and they showed us what they did. I know they did the work, so it's certainly not that program, but it hasn't helped at all. It hasn't helped at all.
Yeah, what I think's obscene, and this is what I really would love Brian and you and myself be able to talk to Delmarva. So if you're listening or somebody from the company is tuned in because you know this is going on tonight, by all means, feel free to write us with answers if you got somebody in the chat. Yeah. The delivery cost being higher than my actual usage fees, especially as a solar customer. I have a bone to pick with the legislators in Dover over this, because they are the ones that allowed it. The reason this happened is a few years ago, they got rid of the excess credits, where it used to be they'd roll over and you could use them during the winter months when the sun wasn't shining as brightly. Well, somebody, I think it was Hansen, and I got to look at others. I apologize, Senator Hansen, if I am misrepresenting you, but I believe that you were on this bill. They introduced a bill that Carney ended up signing the law that said that the rollover credits could expire at the end of every December, which meant anyone who had solar from January, February, and March basically got screwed in the Mideastern hemisphere, because we don't have enough sunlight at the way we're tilted in order to provide electricity for your home. So you needed those credits from June, July, where your excess to roll over the January, February to help offset your bill. Not only did they do that, but they allowed, and Carney signed it into law, for them to assign a solar delivery fee on top of the regular delivery fee.
Of course they did.
Explain this to me, people in Dover. For the common person here in Delaware that was told you should be green, you should offset the future increases by going solar, why are you sticking it to the people who did what you told them to do and helped put those programs out there? To me, it's been a bait and switch completely. I am now saddled with two bills, like many people that went to solar are, and I'm pretty angry about it. I understand that there is a bill possibly to bring those rollover credits back, but are they going to reduce the delivery charge? Because I'm looking at all these bills on your page, Katie. All these people are paying more in delivery than they are for electricity.
Yes, they are. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
And Brian,
we're getting, go ahead.
when you do the math on that, the math is billions of dollars. When you take how many homes are in Delaware and you take the amount of millions that they are making, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, over the course of a year, they're able to generate way more revenue than they're putting back out into the infrastructure. So something's got to be said about, they may not be making a profit off these rates, but they're definitely making money off the delivery charges, and that needs to end.
So yeah, they had record high last year. Last year they had record high, and they just applied for another rate increase.
So there's let me get to that in a second. Greg, would you check the chat real quick?
Yeah.
There's something even bigger when we talk about the delivery charges and the supply charges. Something even bigger than the piece of legislation that Greg brought up, which was a good point about the rollover credits. But the supply and delivery charges basically are if I put it in this common of a way, that they are going up because we have an aging infrastructure, we have an aging grid, we have not enough power that's actually generated here in Delmarva or around Delmarva. So it's adding more costs over time, getting more expensive to deliver it here. And that is happening because of this focus on this national focus that has come to Delaware of these green energy mandates that don't fit in with free market principles. So I said it, I think, on the last show, that people aren't against green energy. They want green energy. They want alternative ways to help reduce costs. They want it when it fits into the system. But what happened in Delaware was there was such a rush for these green energy mandates that they took the sight off of what was really important, and that was making sure that our aging infrastructure was fixed, that we had a growing, strong electric grid, and that we were creating ways for now and in the future to produce more energy, whatever kind of energy that was on Delmarva or near Delmarva. They took the focus of that and put it directly on green energy mandates. And they forced companies like this to have 25% of their portfolio by last year be alternative energy. And then by, excuse me, I don't have the bill in front of me.
Just looking that up. I was just looking up that, Greg, Brian, 40% must be green energy by 2035.
Correct. Thank you so much.
40.
So those were the mandates. They didn't fit into supply and demand. They didn't fit into actual free market principles. It's just like, this is the numbers that the government's going to make up, and you've got to make this. And if you don't, then we're going to charge you. And that's where they took the eye from the companies off of what they needed to be doing, building that infrastructure, producing energy here, and put it on those green mandates because they were going to get charged. Now, in the last 2 years alone, Delmarva Power was charged $26 million because they did not, in 2 years, because they did not meet these green energy mandates. Now they are going back this year for their third. And because of that, before I get to this next point, because of that, they're not able to put that money into, or they're having to charge that money for supply and for delivery because they're not able to put it into getting that infrastructure up to producing energy here. Now, the third rate hike that they're asking for, so it will be the third rate hike in 5 years, Delmarva Power is asking for now, is asking for another over $9 million, I think $9.3 million of rate payer to increase. But yet, and that is by their own words, to help with reliability of the grid. And it's like, but the state of Delaware just took $26 million from them to meet these false green mandates that could have been put into reliability of the grid or producing more energy here on Delmarva or near Delmarva, so those delivery charges didn't have to go up. So that's where you're seeing the push from the company saying, hey, if you're going to make us meet these energy mandates and we're going to focus our time here, then we're going to put it on the delivery charge and the supply charge, because we can't put that money into the grid itself. We can't put it into producing energy near the state of Delaware. And that's exactly what happens when you don't allow free market economics to play out. And instead you say, well, this is just a number we're going to choose out of the air, 25% by this year and 40% by 2035. And that's exactly what we're seeing, where the proverbially the chickens are coming home to roost. And that's
Brian,
kind of
real quick, your number was off. It's not 9.7, it's 67.8 million base rate increase that they're trying to get. And of that, 47 million goes to revenue. So that number is $67.8 million base rate increase.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know what to say. That's even worse than what I.
Well, that brings to a larger problem. I'm not sure if you guys know. I did a video, had like 50,000 views here in Delaware, about lobbyists. And Delmarva is using lobbyists in a very aggressive way. Yeah. Now, Brian, I want to pull back the veil on what you do for a quick moment as a representative in Dover. Because as much as we know that you are a very intelligent man, who is upstanding citizen, and we enjoy having you here with us, and this is awesome. You're not an expert in everything, correct, Brian?
You could just ask my wife that question.
Okay. So it's really important to point out that, like, we all have areas where we're strong and we have areas where we just don't have the knowledge base. Yeah. Delmarva uses that to their advantage, and that's what lobbying is. Lobbying is when you kind of use companies that prey on our legislators that are not educated enough in the topic. They bring in people that give really sexy presentations, sometimes individually, sometimes to the group, and they try to convince you, this is exactly what we need. We had a lawyer draw this up. We need you to help sponsor this. Energy lobbying has been happening between Maryland and Delaware by a lot of the same people. I pulled the lobbyist directly off Open Secrets so I could figure out who exactly was doing things. I reached out to a number of these lobbyists that are currently working, 13 of them, for Delmarva Power. How many of them do you think actually wrote me back or agreed to talk to us?
13, Greg. I'm being optimistic. All of them. All 13.
Zero. So those lobbyists can make all the time in the world to be paid by Delmarva and PJM to go talk to Brian and all the other people in Dover, but they can make no time for the peons, us, that are paying these bills. And this is one of the major problems that I have with what's going on with Delmarva. When you have a bunch of individuals that are lobbying all the bills that you guys do in Dover, and you don't have experts on staff, that is a problem, and that needs to change in Dover. That's a way to help protect the consumer, is to make sure that you guys are getting more educated. And that's actually one of the bills I think that you introduced, Brian, we talked about last week, that makes sure that people are getting educated on financial matters, making sure they know how it's going to affect the market. Just so you guys know, I started researching this pretty heavily. The energy sector lobbyists, they are frequently engaged with state legislators to write and amend utility regulation statutes. And looking into it, Delmarva does not like these bills that are currently being proposed in Dover. Matter of fact, they're opposed to almost every single one of them. They want to rule the governing of what utilities can charge the ratepayers. They want the regulatory standards that determine how infrastructure upgrades are going to be recovered through those bills, which is what Brian was just talking about. When regulators must apply a prudence test, they don't like this. They want to disallow costs not reasonably incurred versus the more lenient standard they go by, which is called the business judgment rule that we use in Delaware. There is legislation on the books to go to a prudence test. And I think that that's very important, because those legal standards are going to affect whether or not a regulator can deny or they can approve utility costs to get passed on to all of us. So I would like to say, follow the money. Follow these people that have worked for Maryland energy companies that are now all lobbying, and then follow the politicians that are with the lobbyist as well.
Which side note, Greg, do that for everything.
Yes, because there's
Always
Republicans
follow.
and Democrats right now
Yes.
with the lobbyist. So
Yes,
this is not like, oh, the Democrats in Delaware are bad. They're selling us out the Delmarva. No, no, no. I have receipts. I will not name people today because they don't have the ability to defend themselves. But I will tell you there's Republicans and Democrats that both are using these lobbyists in order to help themselves. And they're really hurting us. And I just want to make sure people are aware of that as we talk tonight.
Because at the end of the day, we're who suffers. And I know, like, legislators, you guys suffer too for things that get passed, of course. But I feel like we elect these people to represent us. So when they're doing things that it will hurt us, it feels like a betrayal. And I think that's part of the worst part. It feels like we're being betrayed.
That's absolutely true. What frustrates me the most, being a legislator, is when I see, and I don't know if we can bring up a live screen again of legis.delaware.gov, but what frustrates me the most is when you see bills introduced and they never even hit committee. Now, when you submit a bill and it's not even brought up for discussion, it doesn't matter. It should not matter if the majority thinks it's not a good bill or that the majority does not like the bill. If a representative that represents your area that was elected by the people in that area has a bill, it should at least go to that committee to be talked about, to be put out into the public, for people to understand what it's about, and for the press to hear it and put it out in their papers and online for people to have that discussion. The two that I was thinking about were from last year that have not, were 65 and 64, Senate Bill 65 and 64. Senate Bill 65 was by Gerald Hawker in the Senate. It has not even been placed in the Energy Committee. And it basically takes Delaware out of the RGGI, which is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is also added to the rates going up. And basically gets us out of that mandatory compliance that does not follow free market principles. And even better, Senate Bill 64 actually takes any money that Delaware has created, the state of Delaware, the government of Delaware has gained from that Reggie model, and gives it back to the people of Delaware. So it gives, if they've collected any money from those companies not meeting those unattainable goals, it takes those fines and it gives it back to the people of Delaware so they can use it for their electric bills.
Brian, you just said a really important word there. You said unattainable goals. Unattainable goals. And when we're talking about Delaware and an area that has such little space, that is so built up over the last decade, it truly is unattainable. We don't have the infrastructure to make the green energy mandates put forward. I read in researching earlier about the green energy mandates themselves. We have to be 50% below where we were in 2005 by 2030. So that's 4 years away.
Brian, I want to ask you a question here. So yes. I brought up a bill that is a little bit different on the opposite side, that Hansen actually was the primary sponsor. And I just noticed something. I noticed that the bill that you're a co-sponsor on, that you just talked about, Senate Bill 65 and 64, the additional sponsors and co-sponsors is a completely different list than the bills that you're on.
Completely different.
That's correct.
Why is there a partisan agenda to electricity? Explain this to everybody. What's going on in Dover? Why is electricity, like I just looked at here, right? You got Hansen, Huxtable, Sturgeon, Hofner, right? This is the PJM, Delaware Code for PJM Connection Regional Transmission Organization. I can actually explain that is a transparency where they want a utility vote interconnection meetings to decisions made at PJM can affect ratepayer cost, but currently utility votes there are private. They want that to be made public. I'm not against it. I'm wondering, why is this partisan compared to, let me go to the Senate Bill 64, the same individuals. Why aren't they on this bill?
So Here's two different answers. One of them is what I believe. One of them is the practical reason. A lot of times people will, within their own party, they will write the bill, they will get signatures from their own people, and then they'll release it. So it looks like they have a lot of, well, they do have a lot of support. So they have support. Then they'll send it out. It goes through the process of everybody gets to look at it. But, unless you are, very favorable of the bill, you won't put your name on it. That's the very practical reason on why that happens sometimes.
Now give us the hot take.
Now what you're seeing with bills like this, what you're seeing with the one that you have up now, is a clear division of where Democrats, elected Democrats in Delaware versus where they want to take Delaware energy in the future versus where elected Republicans in Delaware think that we should be taking energy in the future. If you break it down to its simplest foundation, elected Democrats have, and I'm generalizing, but in general, they believe that the green energy, alternative energy, is going to be the solution to bringing down your bill, to bringing more energy independence to the state of Delaware. Now, the Republicans that are elected in general are saying you have to follow free market principles, because without that, you cannot start to mandate. So a lot of times Republicans in the state, they'll say, well, you're just against green energy, or you don't care about harming the environment. It really comes down to what I have seen, the discussions I had in my own party, is none of that is true. We're not against the environment. We're not against, what it really comes down to is you have to have the numbers behind it. You have to have free market principles, or it's not going to work, and you're going to hurt the businesses, which are going to put the fines directly on the customers. And that's what we're starting to see now, years down the road. It's finally coming to fruition. Now, in general, I think the Democrats have been for years, hey, this green energy is going to be the savior, and it's going to help, and it's going to create more diversity in the portfolio, which is true. But and it comes back to the Republican side, but if that diversity is not based in free market enterprise, then those prices are going to go up. So I think that's why you see the split.
Hard time really believing that they believe that the green energy policies is what's going to help. I don't think that's it. I think it's party line over policy.
Well, if you think about it, it's been a big party line, national party line for a long time.
Yeah.
The RGGI is RGGI greenhouse initiative is a regional initiative. It's gone across the country. It's been a national platform. And look, Republicans are guilty of it too. There are national platforms that Republicans will die on hills that go to their national platforms as well. So this is where we've got to be really careful. Not only as a representative or a senator, but somebody when they go to elect somebody or they go to vote for somebody, to actually ask these questions. Are you just going to vote party line? Or if this is important to you, especially now that it's coming to fruition, how are you going to deal with rising electric rates? What types of things are you going to look into? Are you just going to vote green energy? Or are you going to look at free market? Or if you're on the other side, are you going to consider green energy as well when it comes to diversifying our portfolio? So all these things you need to ask instead of just saying, oh yeah, we're going to, taking to that national brand.
Brian.
I'm sorry, real quick. I brought this up the other day, Brian, and I've been meaning to ask you about it. I was talking to, I believe it was Greg, about it. And he informed me it was because of a policy down in Florida. So when I go down to Florida, we go down once a year for volleyball, and every major store, every parking lot, they all are lined with solar panels to offset that. And I didn't know, Greg informed me that that's actually a policy that they passed down there. Has anything ever been discussed similar to that in Delaware? Because we may not have the infrastructure to build these things we need, but we sure as heck have a lot of buildings.
Yeah, so not with parking lots, to my knowledge, but there is with new building,
Mhm.
with new commercial buildings over a certain size, and I'd have to get back to what that size is. There
Mhm.
has to be, not that solar panels have to be put on, but there has to be the infrastructure that can actually connect solar panels on board. And I know that it's for every new school,
Mhm.
has to have that as well. It's not as simple as like little tags to connect it with. It's actual, like, it's an actual infrastructure piece that you have to put on your building that you
Right.
could put solar panels on. So it is a step in that direction.
Okay.
Katie actually read my mind because that's where I was going with the 16% energy that's being produced. We don't produce enough energy for what the Democrats have passed in Dover.
Yeah.
When you get down to it, when you start putting these caps on green energy, saying that 40% of our energy by such and such a date has to be from green energy, but yet we're relying on a company that's not actually in Delaware producing all of our power, and we're not focused on creating new power here in Delaware. Instead, we're trying to regulate our way to a solution. Look, name one thing, if you're listening right now, name one thing that the government has ever ran efficiently for a long period of time. I'll
Give it
wait
to
a
us in
long
the
time.
comments, guys.
Give me one thing. I would love to see if there's something the government has run efficiently. You're probably gonna have to talk your way around this. Social Security? Oh yeah, let's hear how well Social Security's done, right? When government gets involved and starts regulating things, there's always unintended consequences, like college, right? College has runaway costs now because they've put free money, grants, and enticed people to take these loans. And what do the colleges do? The colleges said, "Oh, you're going to give us some money for our kids to go here? We're going to raise our tuition and
Yep.
build up." And that's what happens. The government enables private industry to continue to use free government money, which you'd be a fool not to. So I'm not complaining.
Mhm.
I used it for my solar panels. So
Yep.
I did it, right? But you're going to use government money, but that only is going to further inflate things for the future. So the solution then needs to be what Rick Jensen talked about earlier today on WDL. He said, look, you can do whatever you want in Dover with PJM, Delmarva, until you actually start building energy infrastructure where
Yeah.
we're producing electricity in Delaware. Like Katie said, you know what? You want to legislate something? Hey, all these data centers, they're not allowed to build unless, as Donald Trump said in Davos just a few hours ago, Trump said, no data centers should be built in America unless they can provide all of their electricity.
Absolutely.
It's about an hour and 22 minutes into his speech, in case anybody wants to find that clip. But he stated, Mark Zuckerberg has a $50 billion data center that is larger than Manhattan, and it actually has high rises in it. And he said to him, you can only do this if you're going to produce your own electricity. And Zuckerberg said, we're going to do it. We're going to produce everything. So that conversation is relevant in Delaware as well, because you cannot have the Delmarva power conversation tonight without having the conversation about the massive data center that's being proposed right down the road from us.
And that's just right down the road from us. But when I was researching
Multiple.
this too, I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to pull it up on my phone. There have been multiple studies on within just the PJM grid, if we're not even considering any of the other grids, the massive increase in costs as these data centers have been popping up at other places in our region.
Yeah, it's the dirty truth.
Go figure.
Taught the
Well,
Loudoun County, Virginia. They'll
Yeah.
tell you
well,
that.
and
Exactly
this is
where I was
where,
looking.
when you have something new that's coming on board, that's new tech or newer technology,
Mhm.
and it looks like it's going to take, energy, and it looks like it's going to have a bad effect. This is where you can be innovative, and where you can do something new, and you can say, not only do we need you to have enough power to manage yourself and produce for your own, but we need you to do X, Y, and Z to help us build our own energy here in Delaware or on Delmarva or for this grid. This is how you build partnerships with businesses to expand your grid, to help with the aging infrastructure, to build energy production here in Delaware, as you use these private partnerships, private public partnerships, in order to do that. Now, of course, it's got to be done right. It's got to have the right people at the table. If you don't have the right people at the table, it could go incredibly wrong. So you got to have people that are doing it in the right way, and you got to have people that have the public in their best interest. But if these things are coming down to it, you can even push back because they're going to be making tons of money. They're going to be making money hand over fist. So if that's the case, have them being investing in the grid and building power for us in order to be making money here in the first state.
Can I ask a question about low-income subsidy programs that are passing through Dover?
Sure.
There's a House bill that is being proposed, House Bill 116. It's actually a substitute to be, I guess, improved upon. But I just think it's being improved upon in the wrong way. This is the wrong focus. So this is a bill to subsidize a 20% discount to low-income customers. Brian, can you explain to viewers who ultimately pays for that?
Yeah. So this is a bill. Has it gone through the House yet? Because I feel like I voted against this already.
It was introduced 5/13/25, but it's still alive.
Bring up the roll call.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. Committee reports, roll calls. No records
go.
available yet.
Oh.
So this is the substitute. You might have voted for the original.
Okay. So this would give the ability for
it passed.
Delmarva Power or someone like that to be able to give 20% of low income. But what it's going to do is it's actually going to just take Delmarva Power is going to create a system that will basically just put another, for lack of a better term, tax or fee on everyone or the other 80% in order to give it to the 20%. So that's really what you're just seeing is the 80% that are over whatever that low income customer, whatever their definition is of low income customer, the other 80% will pay the subsidy for the 20%. The taxpayers won't pay for it, but the ratepayers will pay for it. Now there is another push, and I don't know what bill it is, to do the same exact thing, but to do it through the state of Delaware as well. So that way the 80% of taxpayers would be paying for 20% of the lower income, however that's identified by the state of Delaware too.
Assuming there's no language in the bill that defines what they consider to be low income, right?
I don't think there is in this bill because it just leaves it up to, there could be, but
I would be interested
bill, it
to
just
hear.
leaves it up to the utility company themselves because see what they do with a bill like this is they get around it by saying, well, it's not coming from us. We don't have a fiscal note on it because it's not coming from taxpayers. What they do is they push it into, this one may be basically, I think it's if you're qualifying for state services, you qualify for this 20%.
So that is so crazy because the state services qualification is so low that there are single moms of 4 kids that can't even get state assistance. So if I had to bet, I would say that they were putting that probably about what, I guess it would be 38,000.
Well, I think the reason they do it this way is because it's easier to, instead of putting a number on it, you can basically just go through the system and see who's on state assistance and who's not on state assistance. Or if you apply and you get state assistance, then you also apply for this as well. And it's easier to disseminate the money at the same time. So I think that's why they put it in this sort of language instead of, the language that used to be used when I first came 7 years ago was, 200% of poverty level and that sort of thing. Now it seems to have changed to just low income is if you meet the level of state resources.
So I looked into it. So Medicaid, low-income home energy assistance program, supplemental nutrition assistance program, so SNAP, weatherization assistance program, or temporary assistance for needy families. If you meet any of those requirements, similar requirements, you would qualify for this. The reason why I wanted to point that out, and I saw a question from Tug that I want to come back to in just a quick second. Tug, let me ask you a question if you can put it in the comments. Tug is a very successful business owner here in Delaware. It runs one of the largest security installations for private businesses. Tug, how has the electrical rates hurt you as a business owner, cutting in the profit margins for what you do and how has it hurt the businesses that you've worked with? If you don't mind typing that in, I'd love to hear that. While he's doing that, Brian, the reason I asked you and Katie the question to explain this bill to people is because this is socialism. This is against your sovereignty. When you have 80% funding the 20%, oh, be a good comrade. Come on, Dimitri. You can help one another. Live together, right? This is socialism. It's communism. It's a straight out of the 100%. Marxist playbook, right? And if you're against it, oh my God, you're not a good human being. How dare you not support the poor? You know how we used to support the poor, guys? And this is actually Reclaim Ground's mission. You ready for this? That little thing scrolling on the bottom there, they're giving a percentage back to the community for tithing, following church teaching, which churches built this country with the generosity of people that were tithing in order to help raise the poor into not being poor, in order to provide meals. We've wanted government now to solve all these problems for us, which is why we get socialist bills like this, instead of empowering people with the means and bringing it back to the power of the community, which is Reclaim Ground's mission, in order to try to make people aware and spread funds and resources to people that need it. Just boggles my mind the fact that people want to live off government repeatedly and not have their own sovereign rights and their own freedom.
They want them to do everything.
Tug is writing in here, lots of customers have to cut costs, so they canceled their alarm contract because they can't even afford their electric bill, let alone alarm monitoring. That is a gigantic thing there. You know, Tug, I'm going to give you a shout out for participating. CDC Security. If you're a business and you need a security system, does great work. Installed my own security system for myself. Appreciate you, bud. And thanks for commenting tonight.
Yeah, thank you for participating in it. That's actually a really big deal too, because people are cutting their alarm systems. That leaves them open to more crime. We don't have the best crime convictions here in Delaware. So it's a cyclical circle mess. Everything plays into one another. One thing I wanted to bring up too, when me and Brian were talking about this earlier, I'm not sure if you know about this, Greg. I haven't gotten to talk to you about it yet, but I posted this on Facebook earlier this week when I was doing some research trying to figure out things that have been going on with the PJM grid looking outside of Delaware. I'm going to read this because I wrote it better than I'm ever going to be able to remember it and rephrase it. A recent ruling out of Washington, D.C. could carry serious implications for Delaware residents who receive electricity through Delmarva Power, even though Delaware was not named party in the case. In January 2026, a U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, so that's the Maryland you were speaking of, ruled that federal energy regulators improperly dismissed a complaint tied to a costly error in the PJM regional capacity market. So that's the wholesale electricity market that influences what customers ultimately pay for their monthly bills. PJM operates the grid serving Delaware. The dispute stems from a 2022 PJM capacity auction. So that's where they buy their credits, where PJM incorrectly assumed certain power plants would be available when they were not. So that error triggered the purchase of unnecessary backup power, sharply inflating capacity prices. And those costs were passed directly to customers. Now, Brian said that this had been brought up a little while ago, but nothing has been done about it.
This was brought up as well, it happened in 2002, but there's an article all the way back from 2024 by Carl Baker in Spotlight Delaware. And I remember reading it at the time, and I talked with him about it because, to be honest with you, it was very confusing at the time. And that's when in 2024, I started doing research on it through his investigation of it. A lot of hours spent on the computer typing in, what does this mean? What does this word mean? What does this mean? And hours upon hours, because we were getting into this. And this was back in 2024. And thank goodness I did that research, because now 2 years later, I have a little bit, like to Greg's point, I'm not an energy guy. I'm small business, and as far as I know, my bills go up, and I'm mad about it. And I got an alarm guy, and thank goodness we have to keep it on because we've got commercial assets to take care of. But it's crazy that is just now coming back into the news, because it basically was a fault of where they didn't calculate the purchase price or the auction correctly. And there was $100 million error that led to the energy spike. And I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know if that money now is going to go back to the ratepayers, or it's just going to go back to PGM, or
for Delaware, nothing's going to happen because we're not a named party in that at all. But this is something I absolutely think that Delaware officials should be looking into.
Correct.
If they are doing things and operating in a way that's the best interest for Delawareans.
Here is, and I don't mean to get off the topic, but I just wrote this down, and this should be, we've got the bills that came out last year that said, let's get out of the Reggie mandates. Let's give the money that we collected back to people so they can use it for their electric bills. Those haven't even been placed in committee. And it's been at least, it's been 8 months since those bills have been released. There's also other bills that are there as well. But this should be number one on the list of what we're going to take care of. And just in the last week alone, we've had and again, I'm not trying to get off topic, but I've got to say something. The governor of Delaware,
preach, Brian. Let's go.
Was at a abolished ICE rally
get him going.
Dealing with federal immigration, which immigration is a federal. It is for the federal government to deal with. You have U.S. Senator Coons and Representative McBride in Greenland to stop the federal administration from invading Greenland.
Wait, is that why they're there?
The children can't sleep, Brian. The children can't sleep. They're invading. Oh, my God.
And yet people cannot pay their electric bill here in Delaware. This should be number one priority. But those three are focusing on national things, national political things, when people right here are saying, I can't pay my electric bill. I mean, I shared this with you, Katie, and my wife's probably going to shoot me for sharing this, but my bank account bounced yesterday because of my electric bill.
Yeah.
My electric bill was so high. I tried to pay for a $9 sandwich.
And you weren't home half the month.
And it wouldn't let me pay for a $9 sandwich because my electric bill is taken out directly. And it was twice of what it usually is. And I was like, okay, what like, I knew it was rising. It's been rising for months, but to be almost double. And I've seen this ongoing, but like to have and I'm sure, and you're probably like, welcome to our scenario. I know all of you watching this are like, welcome to our scenario. But I mean, come on. Our bank accounts are bouncing because we can't pay for a $9 sandwich. And you're going to Greenland to fight this invasion that we're going to have? Or they got
to do their pandering to the overlords. They have to.
The fake invasion.
Get out there and show them who's boss and stand up. I mean, you have the governor saying that.
I mean, they should be protesting at Delaware Power's headquarters.
Within a 3-day span, we had our governor standing at a protest saying, you are welcome here. Come to Delaware. This is a place for you. You're welcome. And then 3 days later, after Trump goes, no more money. Now he's saying, wait, we're not a sanctuary state. Well, define sanctuary.
It depends how you define it, Katie. They got to define it first. It's kind of like, what is a woman? We got to define it. No, we're not going to define it.
When I said they were welcome, I just meant to like drive through. I never said anything about that.
This should be all hands on deck. The governor should be sitting down with the CEO of Delmarva Power and PGM and say, my people are struggling. Yeah. They can't buy a $9 sandwich at work. which, by the way, is ridiculous. $9 sandwich. Anyways, I'm a product of the 90s. What can we do? How can we partner as the state of Delaware and these businesses that provide us energy in order to ensure that people can stay warm, that we can have a reliable grid, that we can produce a energy future that has a diverse portfolio? What can we do together?
This comment by Amelia breaks my heart because people, Amelia, thank you for sharing that. And I am so sorry if you are somebody finding yourself in this situation. This comment breaks my heart because I am telling you right now, I can pull up my inbox on my phone. I am getting 15 messages a day from senior citizens or from, like I mention all the time, because as a mom, it's close to my heart. Moms that can't afford it. They cannot afford it. A very good friend of mine named Jill, who is the mom of, I believe, I want to say 5. I want to say she's a mom of 5. She doesn't get involved in politics or anything like that. She just, she stays her line. She reached out to me about this because they just simply cannot afford it. And these comments break my heart, and hearing the stories can't break my heart because I'm barely affording it. And that's why I asked when we're talking about, well, what's the consideration for low income? We have a household income of maybe 75 grand, which thank God it's better off than some people that I speak to, but I'm barely affording it on that. So how are other people with one income taking care of 5 children expected to afford it? And nothing gets mentioned. We have bills being introduced to protect access to women's reproductive rights so people can't stand outside of the abortion clinics. We have bills to protect, the homeless to do their business in public. We have all these bills coming down the line. Nothing that helps the general person in Delaware. Not a single thing.
Can I said I wouldn't name names of elected officials. Can I put up the names of lobbyists? Would you guys have any problem with that?
Do it. It's
public information.
It's public information. Yes. None of what I'm going to share is not public. So I think that's really important for people to know up front. So if anyone's upset by what they're about to see that's on the list, I want to make sure that everybody knows this is not any wrongdoing by being on this list.
Right.
This is simply, I've put together a spreadsheet to show who is lobbying in order to keep your best interest out of the equation and making it about Delmarva's best interest and the company that hired them. And so I know I have mutual friends, and I've reached out to some of these people, as I said earlier, and I haven't heard back. Mm-hmm. Steve Pacino has spent 35 years in public utilities. He was formerly at Delmarva Power as a senior benefits consultant and regulatory affairs specialist. Now he's vice president of regulatory affairs at Chesapeake Utilities, served as chairman on the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce in 2021, and governor at the Delaware State of Chamber of Commerce. He was involved in energy sector discussions, including concerns over county municipal impacts from bills like SB 289. His potential influence on local elected government was he's lobbied on utility rate transparency and renewable energy policies, likely has engaged with Newcastle County Council and state legislators on grid strain, rate hikes, including testimony or input to the ESWG, the Energy Supply Working Group. He has ties to the business chambers, suggesting influence on pro-business energy bills, favoring the utilities over consumer relief measures. The reason I'm sharing this with you, details, is this is how the game gets played. This is what happens in the back room. Again, they are doing their job. I'm sure Stephen's a lovely human being and a great person. So by no means am I saying Stephen's doing anything illegal. He's not. Stephen is doing the job that he's been hired to do as a lobbyist. And this is all information that's public on Open Secrets. You can go and look at this up and see who's registered as their lobbyist. Frederick Carchell is an attorney in Delaware, partner at Richards, Layden & Finger, a prominent Delaware law firm that specializes in corporate and intellectual property law. There's limited public info on direct lobbying for Delmarva, but the firm does represent utility interest in regulatory matters, which means that this guy is probably handling the legal aspects of lobbying rather than shaking hands in Dover. All right, so he has sparse ties, but he's potentially advising the language of the bills of the utility infrastructure. But that influence, here's what's really interesting. The influence when you get people like this, they can extend to the Delaware Chancery Court judges and legislators via their connections if they need to get something through. But there's nothing that I have that officially links that. I just want to make sure that people know when you get the legal ties, it happens. Then we have this married couple, Dr. Farley and Joseph P. Farley. One's a longtime Delmarva Power employee. The other has a PhD in public policy and has worked with advisor to Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long during her gubernatorial campaign. They've both lobbied in energy relief, transparency bills, influencing possibly Hall Long and Democratic allies in the Senate that are writing that bill that I showed you earlier. They have a tie to the workforce that's developing advocacy on job creating utility projects, engaging with county council on rate impacts. This next one, Joseph S. Fitzgerald Jr., has lobbied over 60 bills over 15 years, including electricity and community solar legislation. He had opposition to SB 613 in related states, and he likely influenced the General Assembly members on ratepayer relief and RPS changes with connection to business-oriented legislators. I can go down. I will just publish this so you guys can read through because I don't want to take up the whole show reading these. Yeah. But as you can see, you have people that are lobbying multiple bills historically 15 years, 14 years, a few people that are brand new, got lawyers doing the work. And there is major influence tied to business and not tied to the consumer. I want people representing Katie. I want people representing me and not people representing just the big businesses building here in Delaware.
Something when you were reading that list, I believe one of the named places also represents data center, Delaware City data center interests too.
I'm sure they do. And I can,
I believe in the land use realm. So
wouldn't surprise me.
No, I find that interesting. I do have, before we get off of here tonight, I do have some things that I would like to share with Delawareans if they are struggling, potentially could be of some benefit. So the first is, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a company that I use. I can link the actual company themselves on my Facebook if anybody is interested. I highly recommend the small company that we found going through this program I'm about to read. I got in contact earlier with the Energize Delaware people. Energize Delaware offers energy efficiency and renewable energy programs for Delawareans. We help Delawareans reduce their carbon footprint by promoting sustainable energy solutions through a thriving environment and economy. Inspired by our vision, we regularly introduce new, innovative, and relevant solutions that will power tomorrow with clean, efficient, and affordable energy. We're a proud 5013C, RGGI-funded nonprofit that you may know as a sustainable energy utility. Find out more at energizedelaware.org. Oh my gosh, Greg, we don't pay you anything, but it's certainly not enough. Look how fabulous you are. And pull that up as I'm reading. This is the company, the program, I should say. This is the program we went through that we found the company that came out and they serviced us back in June. They were fantastic, amazing workers. They were here every day for about a week and a half. They did so much work in my house. Definitely highly recommend. And then the other program is, hold on one moment. Let me just pull it up. Greg, I sent you this one earlier. The Weatherization Assistance Program through DENREC. So the way I see it, this is more of a state-funded program, but they also service low income. I think you have to meet a certain requirement. But essentially, they come out and they do a similar project. I wasn't able to look through this one. Actually, a friend of mine that works at DENREC who saw that this is what I was doing my podcast on tonight recommended that I look into this. I didn't get time because it was right before the show. But I will put all that up there as well on my Facebook. This is it. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to make sure people know how this works.
Yes.
You can go with a energy efficiency check for your home. Once they do that, anything that you purchase that is energy efficient, you get a refund on.
Yes.
So if you get a new hot water heater, but you go with an energy efficient that's better than the one you had, you get basically it on sale. So this is a great program. You pay very little money for them to come to your house to do it, but the economic benefits are actually great to your home. So I highly recommend it. I've actually used this before.
Oh, awesome. So those are two ways that if you are finding yourself in this situation, obviously it doesn't fix the root cause of it. It does nothing to fix it the big picture. But if you're somebody that is finding yourselves in these situations, maybe reach out to these programs, see if there's anything that they can come in and do for you that can at least give you some reprieve from those bills that you are seeing. And we hope at a later date, like we mentioned, we had reached out to Delmarva. They were not able to get a rep for an interview tonight. They did ask for dates going forward that could work. So we're definitely going to follow up on that. But we're hoping to get somebody from Delmarva to talk to them directly too and get you guys some answers.
Yeah, I think from what a lot of people are asking for, and maybe we didn't directly talk about it tonight, was what can lawmakers do now, and what should people expect from their lawmakers? And I think there's two parts to that answer, at least from my perspective. I think there's a short-term and a long-term solution that needs to be done here. From my perspective, from a short-term solution, I think that we need to help people get as much as their money back in their pocket as possible. And I'm not talking about the programs that you just brought up are great, but I'm talking about the state needs to take the initiative and lawmakers need to take the initiative to helping reduce personal income tax, help eliminate overtime tax, help reduce the gross receipts tax, which really is the hidden sales tax here in Delaware, especially hits small business harder. They need to drop property taxes as well. That will get hundreds of dollars a month back into people's pocket of money that's theirs, that they've earned. And that is a short-term solution of giving people their own money, just allowing them to keep their own money to be able to focus on these bills. Now, the long-term solution is literally sitting down with the businesses and saying, how do we build more energy production here or close to Delmarva so those delivery and supply charges can be decreased? How can we build more reliability on the grid? And how can we get to a place where we can have more diversity and more alternative energy, but do it in a way that follows free market enterprise? Is there incentives that would help you get into a diversity of portfolio that would actually incentivize you to do so, that meet free market instead of mandating you to do so? So that's kind of the long term. But in the short term, we've got to allow people just to keep more of their own money, because the companies, as long as they're held to these mandates, we don't take these mandates off now, which need to be done too. I would say call your legislators and say SB, what was it,
64?
65 and 64 should be passed tomorrow. We got to get off those green energy mandates and give that money back to you, the ratepayer. That can be done. That can be put in committee tomorrow. Personal income tax reduction, that can be put in committee tomorrow. And then the governor himself has to sit down with these companies and say, what can we do together in order to build a stronger grid? What can be done together in order to get more production of energy of any type here in Delaware or around Delaware?
Yeah, absolutely. And like Brian said, reach out to your legislators, tell them you want those things passed. I'm going to always reiterate this. It is important when you do so to do so politely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't feel that way, even if the polite message still won't get anything done, make sure you do it politely. I would recommend doing it through email, so then you have a paper trail of the fact that you tried to do so. It is so important, though, when we're contacting legislators, when we're posting about these issues on social media, when we're commenting about these issues on social media, whether the legislators, whether the senators, whether the governor replies to these messages or comments or acknowledges them or not, they are seeing them. Somebody from their office is seeing them. And if we want anything done, we really have to be the people that are exuding common sense and decency. It's just the way that it is. So I really want to drive that home for any of my followers. It is important to do so, looking at yourself as being better than what we're getting. But reach out. Absolutely reach out.
And I would say that, I know that we're very partisan here in Delaware, that one side feels very strongly about the other side. Mm-hmm. And I mean that for both sides, by the way. But when you're talking to individuals that have caused some of these bad policies, instead of staying to that individual, you caused this, help educate that individual of you're in a position where you can help correct this.
Yes. And this is how.
Yes. And I really do believe now is the time where having multiple phone calls from 10 people within a person's district is very important. Not just one squeaky wheel, but gathering organized efforts via social media, whether it's through Reclaim Ground or on your own, to do responsibly kind conversations that demand real oversight.
Yes.
Show up to hearings, continue to follow this show for the bills, call those legislators, have kind conversations, no matter how you feel about them, because guess what? That's your elected official right now. That's the person who can help you. So that's your situation you're in. Work with it and work with it responsibly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But do something about it. Take action, as we've seen just this week with the Harrington Data Center. If you are vocal, if you talk about these things, if you put the action behind the thought, things will get done about it. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it. If you found value with this episode, any of the episodes we've done in the past, any that we've mentioned going forward, that link scrolling across the bottom right there, that allows us to put more time and effort into these podcasts, to do the research, to do the interviews, and like Greg mentioned earlier, to actually help you guys and try to do something about the crisis that we are all in right now. We'll be following up with this on social media. Those links that we talked about, those assistance programs, we will all three be posting it. We will also post it on Reclaimed Ground Media. Please join us for next week on our next episode. We'll start talking about that come tomorrow. And for tonight, thank you guys for tuning in. See ya!